without further ado, we are recording.
Welcome back.
Hello. We are going to work on what used to be second half of chapter 15, but after a dramatic split, this is now the new 16. And some of this is actually the stuff that we already worked out yesterday, but I think maybe let's read it from the start anyway, just to double check.
When Raptor returned with more water, Jewel had made herself cozy, with her back against the desk. We could, we could probably lose the comma there. When Raptor returned with more water, Jewel had made herself cozy, with her back against the desk. Okay, yeah, alright. And then I'm actually going to read lots of this and not get caught up on the first little bit. So let's try this again. Oh, exciting. When Raptor returned with more water, Jewel had made herself cozy with her back against the desk. She accepted the flask and drank, this time with more measured gulps. Please, continue. My parents' desperate plans? Raptor crouched down by her side. When your parents had the idea to make a seeker out of you, my job was to make sure you'd be well taught at Ryhub. Why you? I guess they trusted me enough to... Raptor fell silent and rubbed his forehead. Ah, I left out the important part. Your mother and I worked together back in the day. Wild youth, Indian enforcement, questionable jobs. Good times. When our squad scored a deal to join the Rystar Seekers, she chose to stay with Maxis and take charge of his house security instead. Trista. Her oddball solutions often got us out of some very sticky situations. But the plan she cooked up for you... Raptor shook his head, smiling. Jewel frowned. If she was such a martial prodigy, why not seek fortune out herself? She did. That night she went after him. I am not entirely certain what happened there, but she got burned. Bad. She tried once more when you were little. Almost got herself caught that time. Almost got herself killed. And had to flee K-Space. I have not had direct contact with her since. Jewel interrupted his musings. My father told me the strangest thing before. He apologized, then said he'd failed me. What was that all about? Raptor rubbed the back of his head as if trying to extract information. I cannot know for sure what he might have been thinking, of course. But if I had to guess... Denying you a normal childhood? Holding back truth about your family, making long-term decisions on your behalf and putting you in harm's way, all for a far-fetched ploy that had a million things to go wrong, even if it worked. You didn't approve? It's complicated. Maxis and Trista entrusted me with the plan, entrusted me with your well-being. When it became clear that changing their mind was not an option, I could at least make sure I did my part well. Nice.
So, yeah, I think we're good here because this is the stuff that we already fleshed out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on.
Jewel processed the information with the last sip of water. She knew she should have been furious, but somehow there was no room left in her for anger. With her muscles buzzing to the mellow ripples within, an undefined urge nagged at the edges of her perception. The more she tried to identify it, the stronger it grew, becoming impossible to ignore. Then it struck her. Do you have any food? Raptor detached a provisions pack from his field suit and held back a chuckle watching her tear into it. Jewel didn't remember the generic Nutribars ever tasting that good. She unwrapped another and sat back chewing in bliss. Raptor continued. Once you were safe at Ryhub, your family kept working on collecting information. I knew that one day you might be approached with a special contract. My task then was to make sure you read its contents. Jewel stopped mid-bite. This doesn't make any sense. You clearly told me to stay away from the contract. I only said it was going to be trouble. Raptor developed a mischievous glint in his eye. Plus, I might have taken some steps to compel your choices. Senior clearance to the bounty base and to the global vessel interface can be very useful. He revelled in the moment before turning serious. I wasn't messing with you for the sake of it. I knew some interested parties would always be watching, and I needed to avoid displaying any knowledge or affiliation to the matter. Jewel stuffed 2 more bars in her mouth and hopped to her feet. Her strength was soaring, and a whole array of new discomforts rode along. That pleasant internal warmth had swelled into scorching pulses that made her hairs thorn up, and the inside of her pants was growing slick with tepid ooze. I'll be right back. She stumbled her way to the training turf and landed at the nearest lavatory. With an agonised shiver, she squeezed out what felt like the entire contents of her bowels and uterus combined, before hitting the clean-up button. Before hitting the clean-up button, she dared a peek between her legs. The bowl was swimming in that familiar iridescent goop. Graphic!
Girly body horror right there. You are welcome. So I think the text itself is okay here. Like if I had some markers here, but I think I have already changed the words under the marker, maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe I was just sort of, I'm not sure if it's strong enough. But yeah, the reasoning behind the iridescent goop oozing out of all orifices is a bit of in-world logic that the nanobots are triggering rapid regeneration and also rapid cell reproduction, which means that mucous membranes and certain tissue that regenerates and changes often will have to be discarded. So that's why she will be coughing up some of the shit and why it's also coming up from the Niger regions.
Delightful.
Yeah, mellow ripples within. Then it struck her. Yeah, I think I was just unsure about the wording. Like I wasn't sure if it was strong enough, and that's why the markers were here. But I think I will just remove the marker. Highlight none. The bowl was swimming in that. Maybe not the bowl, but the receptacle. I know later on there is a garbage receptacle. And also maybe they have the antique style lavatory. Okay, carry on.
The empty changing room looked and smelled exactly as she remembered. She headed to her once favourite wash nook in the corner, nudging off her boots on the way. A cautious tug at the bandage bulk made the fabric skid loose on her torso, unleashing a world of itch. Jewel ripped it off along with her shirt shreds, revealing streaks of angry pink tissue underneath. She poked at the bulging, throbbing patches and decided to leave the neckbinds in their place. After giving herself a quick wet towel rub, she shoved her old clothes into a waste chute and scoured the gear storage for replacements. With a size 2 big guard suit over her fresh undergarb, she was almost good to go. Just fasten the boots and... She found herself staring at the row of personal lockers, smothered in a tide of guilt. The thought of house crew's well-being hadn't even crossed her mind. Now that it did, her heart sank in certain knowledge that any harm they might have suffered was on her. If only... No. She forced the remaining tears back to her throat. Nothing would undo the fruits of her incompetence, but perhaps she could take action to counterweight them. Besides, she still had a contract to fulfill. Jewel stopped by the weapons cabinet and equipped a sturdy standard issue pistol on her way back through the practice arena.
Two separate sentences.
Huh? Oh, sorry, okay. My phone just went off and totally took my attention. I was reading. Besides, she still had a contract to fulfill. Jewel stopped by the weapons cabinet and equipped a sturdy standard issue pistol. On her way back through the practice arena, she punched an unlucky training dummy off its rack. That made her feel a little better. There's a couple of points where it needs a the, I think.
Okay, first off, standard issue projectile pistol. Inner font here. Do you see what I have done here?
Uh, the empty changing room looked and smelled exactly as she remembered. She headed to her once favourite wash nook in the corner, nudging off her boots on the way. A cautious tug at the bandage bolt made the fabric skid loose on her torso, unleashing a world of itch. Jewel ripped it off, along with her shirt shreds, revealing streaks of angry pink tissue underneath. She poked at the bulging, throbbing patches and decided to leave the neckbinds in their place. After giving herself a quick wet towel rub, she shoved her old clothes into a waste chute and scoured the gear storage for replacements. Whatever it is you've done, that reads better.
I didn't touch that part.
Yeah?
It's a
Well
good
then.
thing it reads better, but I didn't touch that part.
What did you do?
Carry on.
Oh, you've added the thoughts. Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Sorry. It looks like you've added the here, but that must have been. She found herself staring at the row of personal lockers smothered in a tide of guilt. She thought about the thought of. Yeah, now that it did, her heart sank into. Where was my problem then?
I don't know.
Just study standard issue. With a size too big guard suit over something, her fresh overgarb, or with a size too big guard suit over fresh undergarb, she was almost good to go. Just fasten the boots and with a size too big guard suit over fresh undergarbs. It works as a sentence, but my brain's like, this is difficult to read. Leave it. If someone else picks up on it, then someone else picks up on it, but it'll probably fly. With a size too big guard suit over fresh undergarbs, she was almost.
I think I know how to fix it.
Yeah, a size too big guard suit over fresh undergarbs. She was almost good to go. Just fasten the boots and. Shit, the guards. Nice. That's why I was confused, right? I thought my error was in that the first bit, and when I was reading it out, that one sentence on the end there is what I left out. So I didn't then pick that up. So to my mind, it was like, oh, whatever was wrong there is now fixed. No. But yeah, I like the thoughts. The thoughts are cool.
Yeah, so
If only-
basically, for those listening at home, when I originally worked this text out, we hadn't used the option of adding in italicized inner thoughts. So I tried to write all the thought process out as narrated from from an outward perspective. But and this meant that there was certain contrivance and certain mental gymnastics involved with this chapter, because it actually does involve a lot of Joel sort of reacting to things and thinking and sort of going through different mindsets and all that. So right now, by injecting the little thought process moments in, this actually allows for a better rhythm. So for example here, it reads, a size too big guard suit over fresh undergarbs, garb or garbs? I don't know. A size too big guard suit over fresh undergarbs, she was almost good to go. Just fastened the boots and... shit, the guards. She found herself staring at the row of personal lockers, smothered in a tide of guilt. The thought of house crew's well-being hadn't even crossed her mind. Now that it did, her heart sank in certain knowledge that any harm they might have suffered was on her. If only... No. She forced the remaining tears back to her throat. Nothing would undo the fruits of her incompetence. But perhaps she could take action to counterweight them. Besides, she still had a contract to fulfill. And at the weapons cabinet, I added projectile to the pistol, so now it's a sturdy standard issue projectile pistol.
I found the second one while you were reading. The thought of house crew's well-being hadn't even crossed her mind. The thought of the house crew's well-being hadn't even crossed her mind is what I'd say.
No, I wouldn't put anything in there.
Okay.
Like, if it was separate words, the house crew, but right now it's like house crew as a sort of term.
Right.
I don't know. I don't wanna.
All right. I can continue
wait,
on.
Let me think. Yeah, like I like the current rhythm. I bet that other people will pick up on it too, and if enough voices will point it out, then I might cave in. But right now, I will see. I will try to get away with it.
You're sticking to your guns for now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Do carry on.
Raptor had cleaned up the office and was
Frothing.
Frothing? Why is he frothing? Ah, technology makes me so angry. Raptor had cleaned up the office and was frowning at his comms display when she returned. I need to move out. He shut the screen. Wraith is approaching his ship. Once he's boarded and his vessel under launch control, he'll be relatively easy to apprehend. Jewel quietly collected her jacket and the nightsticks and stood in the doorway. I'm coming with you. Raptor didn't argue. He led the way to the central lobby where he paused to converse with a band of indie enforcement types. Jewel could have sworn she recognized one as a street runner from her runaway days. Raptor strode through the main gates, nodding to another hireling at the guard post. I summoned some freelance associates of mine. They've been helping the house. This is Raptor. Raptor has a different voice. Raptor strode through the main gates, nodding to another hireling at the guard post. I summoned some freelance associates of mine. They've been helping the house security to regroup and cover the compound. Hop in. Jewel patted the private glider's first seats with a grin of approval. So that's how overseers traverse homeworld soil. She caught a glimpse of the waypoints appearing at the navigation screen. Hang on. Where are we going? Didn't you say Wraith's going to his ship? Raptor kept his fingers running across the console. Indeed. And he's headed to port name. But that's a priority. Port for vital goods and crisis response. Try again.
Maybe let's pause here.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because there's a whole bunch of stuff or like little nuggets that need addressing.
And while you do that, I'm going to sneak away for a few minutes. So I will return.
Okay, I will pause recording then.
Oh, okay. See you guys soon.
Yep. Okay, so where were we?
Are you recording again?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome back.
So, Raptor had cleaned up his office. I changed one little thing. Wraith is approaching his ship. Once he has boarded and his vessel is under the launch control, he will be relatively easy to apprehend. So I'm trying to remember that Raptor doesn't contract.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, this is okay. Raptor didn't argue. He led the way to the central lobby where he paused to converse with a band of Indian enforcement types. Possible crossover short story folder here.
Oh yes.
Jewel could have sworn she recognized, and right now she recognized one as a street runner from her runaway days. But now I said Jewel could have sworn she recognized a street runner from the days. I would want to replace runaway because street runner and runaway. Turbulent youth.
Yeah.
Something like this.
Something like that.
Wayward, in quotes.
A street runner from her wayward youth.
Unofficial training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna remove the extra line from here. But yeah, so basically days times wild adolescence.
Yeah. Jewel could have sworn she recognized a runner from her wild adolescence.
Not quite there yet.
It's too strong, isn't it? I think wild is too strong.
Yeah, it should
I think
be more like
rebellious. And you could put the rebellious in quotes.
yeah, I didn't I don't want to resort to quotes unless I have
Oh,
to.
okay.
So it's like if I can, I would like to make it like some sort of a metaphor.
Well, I'm shit out of luck then.
So it's like something akin to unofficial training is what I'm looking for, but not quite that. City school, like words I don't wanna say out loud. Street and runner. Everything else goes.
Unsanctioned. Off the record.
Off grid.
Personal? No.
Night school. Good. It's like basically the time we are referring to is when is not when she had already left home and taken off towards Rystar, but when she was getting out of the wealthy home to perform as a little street urchin.
Mm-hmm. I'll sweep your chimney, I will.
Rebel days might be the most neutral thing that I can come up with. Rebellious phase.
I like rebellious. So, I like something rebellious or rebellious something. That's rebellious is my strongest leaning so far. All the others seem a bit strong.
I will leave it for
Yeah.
now. Let's carry on, and I will work on it on my own. And once it comes to me, then it comes to me.
Mhm. Port name.
This is where we could use one of those names that didn't make it to the whatever the other port was.
Mhm.
So I will go over the list and see if there's something. I will also leave the port name for now and try to figure it out on my own, because
Yep.
this is one of those things where you sit for hours and stare and like
Meditate on it.
it needs to come out on its own volition.
Yeah.
Okay, where were we?
Keep reading.
Yes.
But that's a priority port for vital goods and crisis response. How would he get the clearance to dock so close to a major populated area? That's the question, isn't it? Raptor steered them upwards, and once in free fly zone, led the glider into a gorge between the tallest city mounds. Jewel overcame her giddiness and remembered the questions she still had. Speaking of unusual access, I get that you know more about my affairs than I do, but how did you know to come here now? How did you know to come here now? Another perk of being an overseer. I have clearance. Needs more fresh air. Another perk of being an overseer. I have clearance to view the regular updates on all hub vessels, past beacons, docking logs, transit points. The plain data alone doesn't mean much, but when I cross-referenced it with the plain data alone doesn't mean much, but when I cross-referenced it with the fortune folder, I could make educated guesses about your progress. But Raptor glanced at her. Of course I had a copy, in a more discreet format. Anyway, it wasn't just Solitaire's signatures I monitored. I knew that once the contract was in motion, the interested parties would find out and take steps to secure their secrets. So when I saw that Vergaia kept popping up at the same places as Solitaire, I surmised that they had tasked Wraith with intercepting Fortune.
Okay, stop here.
Yeah?
So I want to work on Raptor's dialogue here. And also, it might be that certain phrases might come off as over-explainy. Like Jewel, I have marked Jewel overcame her giddiness and remembered the questions she still had. Like this, I think I have marked it as potentially too, I don't know, too lecturing. I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's too much.
It sounded okay to me when I was
Okay.
reading it.
Okay. Then I think the heavy stuff comes later.
by this point, and this might just be me, but I think the reader is sort of invested in this now, and I think they want some answers, and I don't think they'd mind it being a bit sort of
Hmm.
long, you know.
Okay. Clearance to view the regular updates on all hub vessels. The past beacons. I don't know. Their past beacons, docking logs, transit points. Plain data alone does not. The plain data does not mean much alone. The plain data on its own does not mean much. But cross-referencing the ship info with Fortune's contract folder, with Fortune's contract
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to make educated guesses about your progress. But is this appropriate?
Yeah.
So let me try. Another perk of being an overseer. I have the clearance to view the regular updates on all hub vessels, their past beacons, docking logs, transit points. The plain data on its own does not mean much, but cross-referencing the ship info with Fortune's contract allowed me, but cross-referencing the ship info with Fortune's contract allowed me to make educated guesses about your progress. But, please, Raptor glanced at her. Of course I had a copy, in a more discreet format.
Yeah, nice.
Should anyway.
I like the anyway because he's about to talk about something different.
Yeah, the only thing I'm thinking here is that he might say it in a longer way,
Ah,
so it's like it's like okay, I will let it slide for now. Anyway, it was okay. I know what to do here. Anyway. This is a very clumsy way of saying it, but this is closer to the Raptor version of saying things.
Yeah. Anyway, I knew I had to monitor more than merely Solitaire's signatures. Ooh.
So let me see if I would say it like this. Anyway, it was not the merely Solitaire signatures I kept my eye on. Yeah, I think the original sentence is working better than this format. Anyway, it was not merely Solitaire signature trail I monitored, or I kept track of. I kept track of. And to anybody who says you can't end the sentence on a whatever word type, fuck you. Anyway, it was not merely Solitaire signature trail I kept track of. I kept my eye on. Kept track of? I kept my eye on.
I prefer that.
I kept on the surveillance. Anyway, it was not merely Solitaire signature trail I had to worry about.
Ooh.
Or I had to monitor. Yeah, back to monitor. I had to monitor. I knew that once the contract was in motion, the interested parties would find out and take steps to secure their secrets. So, once I saw that Vergea kept popping up at the same places as Solitaire, I surmised that they had tasked Wraith with intercepting Fortune. Carry on.
They? Who they? Oh, hang on. They? They who?
Yeah.
They would have to know my path first. Are you telling me his instructions came from our hub? Raptor's eyes darkened. Yes. They shared a moment of silence as the glider swooshed into daylight again. As soon as I learned you were headed to our chaos, I set out to meet Maxis. The intent was to collect you both, fill you in, gear you up, and plan the next steps. On my way down, I caught up with real-time data. I was too late. You were already on the ground, and so was Wraith. I tried to warn your father, but he wouldn't respond, so I tried to distract Wraith instead. Sent him vague messages via high-clearance channel.
Okay. So basically here is a sentence or two that might need working out still. On my way down, I caught up with real-time data. I was too late. You were already on the ground, and so was Wraith. I tried to warn your father, but he did not respond. basically the point here is that Raptor knows that he won't be able to directly interfere, and now he's improvising to give at least some leverage to Team Hopper.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I could still help out was to distract Wraith. The only way. It's too strong. Like, basically, I want to make the desperation clear. Like, as far as he knows, all might be lost. Basically, what he's saying is, I only had one trick left up my sleeve.
Mm-hmm. Like the only thing I could do.
The only useful thing. Actually, this sentence probably is the best way of putting it.
Mm.
So I sent him some vague messages via high clearance channel, and this is the elaboration that we were looking for. How did you know it would work? I did not. Okay, so no.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, that was my mouse acting up. So let's see how this reads now. They who? They would have to know my path first. Are you telling me his instructions came from our hub? Raptor's eyes darkened. Yes. They shared a moment of silence. I'm gonna start a new paragraph here. They shared a moment of silence as the glider swooshed into daylight again. As soon as I learned you were headed to Archaeus, I set out to meet Maxis. The intent was to collect you both, fill you in, gear you up, and work out the next steps together. On my way down, I caught up with real-time data. I was too late. You were already on the ground, and so was Wraith. I made an attempt to warn your father, but he did not respond. The only way I could still help out was to distract Wraith. So I sent him some vague messages via high clearance channel. How did you know it would work? I did not. I
Awesome.
think that something, Jules' line needs
A question mark?
No. yeah, it does need a question mark, but I could use some action before she asks it. Like there's like a mini beat, something, a little something in here.
It needs a little je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. That could be swimming pool for all I know.
Je ne sais quoi means I don't know what.
Ah! Well, in that
know.
case, yes.
It needs a certain, I don't know. Doesn't quite have the same zing, does it?
The more you know.
Okay. Something like this.
Jewel turned to stare at him. How did you know it would work? I did not.
And this,
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah, and this is the desperation implied. So like, in the last desperate attempt to interfere to the demise of his friend and their family, dun 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 dun. Something. Okay, I think it is once again good enough. And this means when I send off the chapters, I will include this one. So this means all the material that I intended to send will still be sent.
Awesome.
Not just half of this chapter. All right. So I believe we're done here. This has been the newly separated chapter 16. Stay tuned for more. We're closing in. We have, after this, we still have 3 more chapters to go. The old 16. No, wait. No. 2 more chapters to go after this one. The old 16 and the old 17. On
yes,
Wraith ship and on the unknown homeworld.
Dun dun dun. We'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.
Stay tuned. Bye.